Whew. The garden is growing at the speed of light. It must be July. Hey folks, if we haven't met before, my name is Tara. I garden in the California Bay Area, and yeah, that was me trying to escape my cornfield. The corn has grown like 10 feet tall, towering over me. The garden is just going absolutely nuts now that the weather has finally warmed up. So I'm going to take you around, show you all that's going on. I'm going to show you some tips and tricks and some new things that I'm trying, particularly that new liquid fertilizer recipe that's working out really good. And of course, I'm going to show you all 17 of my GreenStalks because you know what? They are thriving. So let's go. Now, since we're right here already, let me show you my newest GreenStalks, the tomato and sage colored GreenStalks that I can't believe I planted them just exactly a month ago when I did my last garden tour. And the pepper plants are already in need of staking, so I'm going to show you how I'm going to stake them up. And yeah, let's start there and work our way through the rest of them, shall we? Come on up close. Yeah, these things have grown literally a foot over the last month, and they are getting long and spindly. Now, I typically don't pinch off the tops of my peppers, but I am going to just use these garden staples to push them down. Yeah, if you pinch off the top, they may grow a little bushier, but I found not much difference anyway. So that's kind of how I hold my peppers in. Now you can use GreenStalks, got some really pretty trellises that you can use, but mine are all in use. So I'm just going to use these garden staples, by the way, that work really, really well for tall, lanky plants like this one. And then for these that are on the top tier, I'll probably just put a stake in and tie it up that way. Spin you around here so you can see a little bit better. So this is mostly peppers, and I do have a few empty pockets here and there. I think I planted something, may have been a Zinnia, something that didn't quite make it, so I'm going to have to refill it. And what I usually do is I've got backup plants like Coleus that I'm always making cuttings from, and I just stick them in there. They add such a great pop of color. In fact, that is how I filled this GreenStalk, is completely with just things that were sitting around my garden, like these sweet potato slips that are loving life over here. Look at it, how it's cascading over. My goodness, it was this tiny little thing just a month ago. It's growing so fast. And this Coleus is just one of my favorites this year. This is called Purple Dragon. I grew it from seed. And then another plant that is so super easy to transplant is this bloodleaf. It's a kind of amaranth actually. It looks like Coleus, but yeah, again, cuttings are the way to go. And another reason why these GreenStalks are doing so well is because they are on irrigation. Irrigation makes the biggest difference in my hot, dry climate. And frankly, you guys, with 17 GreenStalks, I cannot water them all. Now, I do have a video where I talk about all the maintenance tips on how to manage a GreenStalk farm. Anything 10 and above for me is a farm, and all the tips and tricks on how to manage things once the GreenStalks get to those large numbers. Look at these planters, you guys. Oh my goodness. Interesting difference between the Coleus that's growing this side versus this side. I mean, they're similar plants, but those look a little more suntanned, sunburned, and these look nice and colorful and beautiful because guess what? The ones on this side are a little bit more in the shade compared to the ones on those side. Coleus loves the shade. Look at the beautiful colors. So this doesn't get complete shade. It gets morning sun, afternoon shade, which is just perfect for Coleus. And I am constantly pinching off any flower buds that I see. For example, over here, you can see this flower bud starting to form. Got to pinch it off right away. In fact, go down a little bit and pinch off this whole thing. And guess what? Remove some of the bottom leaves and plant it somewhere in the shade, and it is going to grow into a brand new plant in a couple of weeks. That's how I keep multiplying my Coleus. Moving on to these pretty spring themed GreenStalks. I call them my pink lemonade GreenStalks. This is that gorgeous strawberry pink color. You know the thing about GreenStalks and the colors, they add beauty to the garden just by being themselves. I know that these initially, when I started off, the plants were so tiny, but the pop of color that they added brought joy even when they didn't have any plants in them. And now look at it. My goodness, you guys know how much I love creeping verbena, those who watch regularly. Here's the biggest tip to get your creeping verbena to keep blooming. And I found this out this year. You have to deadhead, constantly deadhead, and it will keep blooming for you. Look at that. Yeah, I mean, last year, around about late spring, I was like, oh, creeping verbena is all done for. But this year, I've been deadheading, and yep, we are in the middle of summer, and it's growing beautifully. And speaking of growing beautifully, I am loving my Coreopsis. Isn't that gorgeous? I've got another pretty bunch over here. Look at that. So you can get the dwarf variety of Coreopsis as well as the tall variety. So make sure that you check. For the GreenStalk, you definitely want to get the dwarf variety because the regular, the tall variety grows like 5 feet tall. You don't want that in your GreenStalk. And this over here is another variety of verbena. These have longer stems. I'll actually show them to you when we get to my blueberry colored GreenStalk. It's got a lot of them in that. But yeah, these actually can be clipped and put into vases. They look really pretty. I wasn't sure initially whether I liked it, but now that it has started growing and blooming a lot, I think it's looking really gorgeous. Another interesting plant that's growing over here that I wanted to share with you a little tip is red Russian kale. Now this is a very pretty kale, and I thought it was done for because you know what? Kale does not prefer the hotter climates. It likes to grow in cooler climates. So I chopped it down. You can see over here, I chopped it down and it put out a new flush of growth. Similarly over here, I think this is cabbage actually. I just chopped it off and it's growing again. Little bugs damage and all that, so you can prune those off, but yeah, they just keep coming back as long as you leave the roots in there. Now eventually I will pull it out by the roots when I want to plant something else because it will keep coming back over and over again. But it's nice because each time you cut it back and you let it grow back again, if the bugs don't get it, you can actually have fresh baby leaves to harvest throughout the growing season. All right, I'm backing away slowly from these GreenStalks because I just saw a hornet over there. Don't want to be anywhere near angry hornets, but let's spin you around here. And finally, I can actually start showing you my Glacier Blue / Snow GreenStalks because guess what? The Thumbelina zinnias are starting to flower. Now, for those of you that are following my channel, you may remember that last year I planted just regular zinnias. I thought that I would keep chopping them and make them nice and bushy and grow. But you know what? The regular zinnias want to grow tall stems. No matter what you do, those stems will get tall. So only grow the small varieties like Thumbelina, and growing another one called Zinnia. That's a pretty purple one as well. Hasn't started flowering, but I am excited about that. But yeah, find yourself some dwarfs. Profusion zinnias, that's another one. They're a little bit expensive, the seeds, but oh my gosh, they are just fabulous for the GreenStalk. I plan to grow those next year. One thing I wanted to show you guys real quick is I'm actually using a 1/4 inch irrigation tube. I pulled that out of my regular tube over there, distribution tube. And the reason I pulled a 1/4 inch tube is because this is like the regular walkway. I've got in-laws who I don't want to trip over things, so I put the skinny tube over here. It's working out okay, you guys. So what I've done here on the top is I've got something like this. I put a little connector thing here and I've got 2 outlets, and I tried doing, like sticking one in the middle and letting the water flow out through both, but it didn't quite work out. So I'm still trying to figure this one out because invariably what I found is when I come and look at it when it's flowing, only one of them has water flowing through it, and then I kind of move the direction and then it starts flowing through the other. But yeah, I don't think this is working out so well as far as the double tube thing, but as far as being an actual watering thing, it's working out okay. It's I mean, I never ever water these things and everything is nice and moist when I check. Yep, there is water in here, so it is getting watered regularly, so it's working out. But if you guys have any idea why only one of them gets water and I have to kind of move it to make both get water, let me know in the comments. There's some physics involved over there that I haven't quite thought through. Oh, by the way, one more thing that I'm doing this year that is making a huge difference, I don't know why I've never done it before, is I have started mulching the top of my GreenStalks. Makes a huge difference because the GreenStalks watering system tends to put water more in the center, and so the center, the bottom of the tiers get more water, the pockets don't. And so having a layer of mulch does wonders to keep that surface soil also kind of moist, which, the plants actually kind of like. I've got some more Coleus growing in this pot that I've kind of been neglecting, but it's good because I want to show you what the blooms look like. Yeah, so this is why you don't want Coleus to bloom, because this takes a lot of energy from the plant. And I know beauty is in the eyes of the beholder, you guys, but I'm growing Coleus for the leaves, not for this thing. Now, one more tip about deadheading Coleus is I just broke off that flower stalk from here. Guess what? There is another flower stalk growing over here. You want to actually go down a couple of nodes because this node is already in flower production mode. So I would actually go down all the way here and break it off here. Now, Coleus likes to get nice and bushy, so don't hesitate. See another example over here. Don't hesitate to be a little drastic with your deadheading. I'm going to go down all the way there. It's going to grow back in no time at all. All of these things will become new plants. You know how they say you should only follow YouTubers who grow in a similar climate as you do, or you may be disappointed that you don't get the same results that they do? Well, let me show you one example of this very large pepper plant that is growing behind me. Let me bring you up close. So I actually have 3 or 4 pepper plants over here. These pepper plants are all overwintered from last year. This one here is a Sugar Rush peach. This here, I believe, is some kind of jalapeno. Actually, it's poblano, and that one is some kind of serrano or jalapeno. I'm not sure. I actually harvested everything because rats were getting to them. Rats tend to like the sweeter peppers, at least in my garden. The hot ones they'll leave alone, but the sweeter ones they will get to. Anyway, I'm rambling, but my point is that you know how you try to overwinter peppers. They tell you, oh, you've got to cut it down all the way, and then you dig it up, and then you put it in a pot, and you overwinter it in a greenhouse. I did that for several years with my pepper plants, and every year I'd probably have only about 30% of them that would survive. And one year I was like, forget it, I'm not going to do that anymore. So I just left my pepper plants. I just let them be. And I started doing this actually about 2 or 3 years ago. And they overwintered just fine. Not all of them, but at least half of them came back again, and they came back with a vengeance, like this plant over here. I mean, this is a really hot pepper, and it would take probably close to the end of the season, September or so, before I start to see ripe fruit. But this one is already loaded with peppers, and you can harvest peppers at any stage really, but they acquire a much sweeter flavor, sometimes spicier, if you let them completely ripen. So that's what I like to do, except the rats get my sweet peppers, so never mind. So yeah, that's what I mean by not really doing things that other gardeners do that are not in your climate zone, because I was following really great gardeners who live in super cold climates. They need to do that. I clearly don't. So I'm not doing anything to my peppers going forward. Now, we've had a really mild winter, but if I have a much colder winter, I might put a little something, throw something on top of it, but I'm not going to dig it up or do anything. I'm going to just let it be like this. I'm not going to cut it back, not going to put any stress on the plant. And then next year, next season, when it is ready to come out of dormancy, then I will go and clip out all the dried out parts, and then it will grow again. So that's how you overwinter peppers in a hot, dry climate with mild winters. By the way, you guys, I often talk about Cardinal basil, one of my absolute favorite basil plants. And the reason I love it so much is, number one, the leaves taste exactly like Thai basil. I love Thai basil, but the leaves of Thai basil are kind of skinny. These are nice and broad and large, and they are exactly like Thai basil. But look at the blooms, you guys. I mean, look at that. I can cut these and put them in a vase. They are one of the prettiest basils I've ever grown, and the bees absolutely love them, obviously. So yeah, Cardinal basil. Add that to your list. It is a wonderful basil, very, very easy to grow. And of course, like all basil, very easy to propagate as well from cuttings. My dragon fruits are starting to bloom. I've got several blooms from this one already. This is a physical graffiti self-sterile variety. I've got about 4 blooms already from that, and I am so excited that this new plant, which is a little over a year old, has started producing blooms. Now, it's a very young plant. the plant knows how many blooms it can handle. I have a feeling this might actually develop into a fruit because it is a self-fertile variety, and it's dropping off this one because I think it's thinking that it can't handle it. I don't know. I am just really excited to finally hopefully get even one dragon fruit successfully this year. So I just wanted to show you this because this is a marigold plant. Actually, there's two marigold plants in here. I had to put a cage on them, you guys. Mice completely stripped this thing to the bone. You can see it did it to this one as well. This poor plant didn't even make it. They stripped my pepper plants to the bone. I've got 3 pepper plants growing here. I came one day and they were all just twigs. The poor little thing is trying to recover. This one actually came back, but this one was also stripped back pretty well by the mice. So yeah, mice love marigolds. Don't ask me why, but they do. All right, I'm going to show you an interesting tomato experiment that I am doing. Every year I try to do something new and different with my tomatoes just to see how I can maximize production, reduce diseases, lessen the amount of watering I need to do. So I'm trying something this year that I learned from someone on YouTube called living off of what you grow. Living off what you grow. I'll put his tag in the description. But he was able to grow like 100 pounds of tomatoes on a single tomato plant. And this is kind of how he did it. I'm experimenting this year, so I'm just kind of trying to get a feel for it. But I'll explain some of the principles. Let me bring you back up close here. So over here I've got a really interesting tomato variety that I'm growing this year. It is a GMO tomato variety. Now I know some of you may have this allergic reaction to GMO. Honestly, I do as well. But this tomato has been bred with its nutrient value in mind. So it's from a company called Norfolk Healthy Produce, and it's a purple, deep purple tomato. It's supposed to be very high in anthocyanins. And so I'm experimenting with it, and the way that it works just on a principle basis is, you know how tomatoes produce these little shoots? For example, right here, it's got this thing called a sucker. It grows out of the armpit, kind of like that angle between the leaf and the main stem, like right here. So you can see the leaf, and then this is the main stem, and this over here is the sucker. Now, if you break that thing off and you plant it, it will grow into a new plant. So what this gentleman has done is he has actually started burying the stem of the tomato, and then each of these suckers, so you can see the tomato plant actually starts over here, and if you look closely, I've actually buried the stem all the way, and I've got several suckers that are now being pruned into separate tomato plants. So I am going to be staking these and letting them grow up, and of course I'm going to have to fertilize very deeply. I'm going to have to keep the foliage at a minimum because, you know, we've got one tomato plant over here, so you don't want too many things pulling out of it. And of course I'm going to have to keep it well watered, but I'm going to treat them practically as separate plants. Now they are going to be growing very closely together. That's why they're going to need some heavy fertilization. I'm going to be very watchful of the suckers. In fact, I neglected this for a few days and I came back and I've got one sucker over here. I've got one sucker over here. All of these unfortunately need to go because they're all pulling nutrients from this tomato plant, and this tomato plant is trying to support all of these little baby tomato plants that are coming up over here. So that's how each of these separate tomato plants technically, so each of these will have its own root system over here. That's how you're able to pull more out of the soil, is you're going to have several clumps of root systems growing under this. I actually tried it with a different plant and I actually saw those little root systems developing underneath. So yeah, let's see how this does. I have a total of 1, 2, 3, 4 plants that I'm trying with, and I think he's done up to like 8 plants, maybe even more. But go and check his channel. I will put a link to it on how he grew these 100 pounds of tomatoes on a single plant. It's absolutely crazy in my mind. But I'm also going to do some really mean things to the plant right now. Honestly, I should have come a whole lot sooner and done this, but life happened and I kind of neglected it. But I've got to get rid of all the extra suckers. So yeah, here goes. Yeah, you should really pinch off the suckers when they're much smaller than this. This is not being very nice to the tomato plant. The good news though is I can snip off these bottom branches over here and I've got a whole new sucker that can become a tomato plant, and I do intend to root this. So I've got another really large, that was painful, sucker growing over here. Look, it's almost a whole tomato plant in itself. It's even producing flowers, but yeah, it takes a lot of energy out of the plant, and frankly, it's producing flowers over here, here. All of those need energy. The energy is a scarce resource, especially when you're distributing it among so many plants. I'm also going to remove some of the extra foliage. I don't want too much foliage around on this plant taking up energy, but at the same time, I want to leave sufficient foliage so that the plant doesn't get burned by the sun. So this is all I've done. Taken it and put it in a cup of water like this, and put it somewhere in the shade in your garden or indoors, you know, on your kitchen counter, wherever, and it should root in about 10 days. And you should be able to put it in a pot of soil. Make sure that the soil is nice and moist, because this is living in a water environment, so slowly transition it and make sure that it's really soaking wet soil, and then allow it to drain off over the course of the next few days, and this one will establish and grow nicely into a brand new plant. So for some of the smaller plants, you see how the suckers are really tiny. So for example, over here, you've got a tiny little sucker. That is really the stage you should be pinching them off. Look in the armpits, as I call it, of each of these little plants. And if there's a small plant growing over there, pinch it off. It is 7 in the evening and the sun is still so bright on my face, but I wanted to bring you here because I want to show you this planter. This is a Vego Garden modern planter, and it is working really well for me. Now, I do a lot of product reviews on my channel, and I also like to show you updates on the products. I don't want to just show you, here I'm unboxing it, and here this is how you set up, and here it looks good. I want to show you whether it actually stands the test of time. So this planter is about a year old at least. So this is the second succession of plants I am putting in it. And I want to talk about why I think it is doing so well. But first, let me show you what's going on in this plant. Now, this planter is a great example of plant chicken math. You know how you have these tiny chickens and you're like, oh, they're so small. And then they grow and they grow and they grow. Well, that's how it was with this planter. I planted these teeny tiny little plants that, they were so small. And now look at the monsters. This is bitter melon, you guys. This is bitter melon. My goodness, it has grown past, I think there's maybe 3 plants here. It has grown and grown. It doesn't even know where to climb anymore. I put a string over here and I tied it to this lamppost because it looks like it wanted to go over there. And I've got to keep coming here and trying to trellis it up, but it's out of control. I've even got pole beans growing here. Those are also going to have to fight with the bitter melon and try to find their way. And then I've got eggplants. Now, one thing about this bed, last year I planted cucumbers in it. This squirrel highway, they took everything. They didn't even leave one cucumber for me. That's how bad they were. So this year I planted things that I think they won't like I don't think they like bitter melon, but who knows. And I've planted peppers. I'm hoping they won't like hot peppers. I've got eggplant. They typically don't go after my eggplant. Though one of my friends said, oh, you know what? They are going to get your eggplant. You better plant some backups elsewhere. So I did. And then, of course, I've got my Cardinal basil growing everywhere. Got some flowers that didn't grow quite fast enough. You can see over here, vinca, it didn't grow quite fast enough. The others just passed it and started growing so fast and like literally out of control. One of the things that I do with this bed, because guess what, you guys, it only has about 12 inches of soil. Can you believe it? Pardon the white water stains on it. I've got hard water and I keep splashing water all over it. But yeah, I don't have irrigation set up for this bed, but very little soil growing all of these plants. Now, a few reasons why that works is because number one, the soil is very nutrient dense, full of earthworm castings, my homemade compost. So it's really great soil. I've put some slow release fertilizer in it. But the other reason that it's growing so well is frankly, the roots are all in the top 12 inches. So as long as those top 12 inches are well watered and full of nutrients, that's all the plant needs. It doesn't need very deep beds. And of course, it's sitting right next to my fertilizer station, which I'm going to show you in a little bit, because I think that really is the secret sauce as to why these are growing so well, is because they are getting regular fertilization from me by way of liquid fertilizer. And that is important. I mean, you guys, you have to fertilize your plants. That's one thing that I'm finding out. I hate it. I hate it. But I have fertilizer Friday. Every Friday I come out and fertilize my plants, and everything is growing just phenomenally well. Anyway, let's talk about the fertilizer. Okay, you guys ready for this? Let me do a big caveat first. This kind of fertilizer is not for everyone. In fact, I didn't think it was for me either when I made it the first time a couple of years ago, but I have since gotten over it. And the reason is because it is actually a liquid fertilizer that I make out of yard clippings, mostly comfrey. I've got lovely comfrey in my garden. Now, comfrey is what they call this dynamic accumulator. I don't know how much science there is to it, but they have really, really deep roots, and they produce these really large leaves that apparently pull a lot of nutrients deep down from the soil. So the leaves are really rich in nutrients. So I grab a lot of comfrey leaves. Frankly, any leaves. I've got tomato leaves. I've got a lot of squash plants that have these large leaves that I keep trimming off because they suck a lot of water out of the soil. You don't want to have too many leaves. You just want to have enough for the plant to grow. So I always trim off the older leaves. That also helps prevent diseases from developing. The older leaves are the ones that get disease first typically. So grab all of those, stuff it in a bucket, and then I pour water over it so that it just covers it. Stuff it really tight, and then let it sit for a few days, and then this is what happens to it. Let me show you. Okay, let me lift the lid. Yep, this is what I call my swamp fertilizer. You can actually still see some of the comfrey leaves on the top, but you see all this white stuff. You got to hold your nose when you do this, because this thing, you guys, it smells like sewage. Oh my gosh, it stinks so bad. But this is all amazing liquid fertilizer down here. Now, one thing that I forgot, that better late than never, is you do need to add some native soil from your garden to it, because that contains a lot of the nice microbes that will multiply in your fertilizer. And yeah, you got to do it just once, and then after that I just keep adding leaves to it and keep adding water to it, and this thing is a continuous fertilizer. Now, when you do want to use it, this is how you use it. You grab a little bit of it. Now, you have to wear gloves. I'm not wearing gloves, but you have to wear gloves, and ideally you should use something with a handle like a ladle, but just get a little bit from the top like that. I'm not too scientific about it, maybe about that much. This is a 3-gallon watering can, and you just pour it in here, mix it up, and water your plants, and your plants will absolutely love you for it. Now, there is one more thing that I do. Let me close this up quickly because I can barely breathe. That's what I mean. It's not for everybody because it really stinks. Actually, there's 2 more things that I add to this. One of them is sitting right here in this container. And no, this is not Dr. Earth liquid fertilizer, because it used to be. I filled it up with something else. Let me show you. So here is the super messy part of my garden. This is my compost area. These are my compost bins. This is my aero bin. I use it as a worm bin, mostly for food scraps. And then this one is for my yard waste. So I just keep filling it up with yard waste, and I keep harvesting beautiful compost from the bottom. And then over here in this bin, I used to have leaves, but now all the leaves have disintegrated, and I use that as my brown material. So whenever I add any yard waste over here, or whenever I add any food scraps to this, I always put a layer of browns over it. And this bin actually has a pipe at the bottom where all the excess liquid comes out of. So it's worm leachate, worm pea, whatever you may call it, and all those vegetable drippings. And it collects over here, and every day I get about maybe 2 or 3 inches in this bottle, and I take that and I put it in that little container that I just showed you, and I use that as my liquid fertilizer. You can see it's flowing pretty fast, but put it back. So that's what this is. So I do like a 2-second pour, just about that much. And then one more thing, no judgment, okay? So I've shared this in many of my videos. There are macronutrients and then there are micronutrients. All of them are essential. There's 17 of them that a plant needs to grow. Now the macronutrients are what most gardeners are typically familiar with: your nitrogen, your phosphorus, and your potassium, NPK. Nitrogen being probably the most important for leaf growth. Phosphorus is for more of that root growth, and then potassium is for overall health of the plant. And then there are tons of micronutrients: magnesium, sulfur, boron. There's a long list, all essential but in very, very minute quantities. That's why they're called micronutrients. Now, I have done a soil test, and my soil, and this is the case typically in the Bay Area, it is lacking in nitrogen. We've got clay soil here. Clay soil is so rich in all these micronutrients, as well as pretty high in potassium as well as phosphorus, but nitrogen is lacking. So what I do, and I guess this is not considered organic, but hey, my garden, my rules, right? I use urea very selectively. So this is what urea looks like. It is pure nitrogen, pretty much, but you get these little pearls, and I put just 1 teaspoon of it in that 3-gallon container that I showed you. And I only do that for the plants that look like they need a little bit of a boost in their leaf growth, if the leaves are looking a little bit lackadaisical. So yeah, that's how I make my own homemade fertilizer, and my plants absolutely love it. So I would love to know in the comments below what your favorite liquid fertilizer is and what your fertilizer routine is. I know a lot of people love fish emulsion. I used it for a bit. I just could not bear the smell of the fish. You guys, I'm vegetarian. And frankly, this sewage smell I can handle a lot better than fish emulsion any day. So yeah, that's what I do. But let me know what you do. All right, let me show you some of the beneficiaries of that fertilizer concoction. Most of my vegetable garden actually is in this, what I call my squirrel cage. It's actually an enclosure to keep the squirrels out. My son made this little sign on the door which says no squirrels or rats, but it has been working really well for me. It is a large enclosure that covers 6 very large raised beds. They are about 12 feet by 4 feet each, so 6 of them. And there are some problems that have started to happen. You know how when you mess with the balance in nature, things start to happen? Well, some of those things are happening. Let me show you and talk about it. Because yeah, the squirrels are out, but so are a lot of other things. All right, first let me show you what is growing really, really nicely. This bed, you guys, this bed, you can see in the back over there, that is what I call my cornfield, the one that I showed you at the beginning of this video. These are huge. They have reached the top of the cage. You can see they're even bending. The leaves are kind of breaking. They want to grow beyond this 8-foot tall cage. So I'm guessing that if you actually pull the leaves up, they're probably going to be, 10, 12 feet tall. And they have actually started tasseling. Yeah, so tasseling, you can see all the way over there, that is the male flower of the corn plant, and the female flower is produced in a process called silking. So you get the corn, and you know how it has those little fluffy things on the top? Well, those are the silks, and they get pollinated by the male flower over there, which is tasseling, and it is wind pollinated. That's why you want to grow corn in blocks like this. You don't want to grow it in rows because it's difficult for the wind to pollinate. But when you grow it in blocks, and I've probably got about 30 plants over here, then it is easier for the wind to pollinate them. I'm trying to get out of the way here. Yeah, let me come and stand over here next to my sunflowers so you can see a little bit better. But yeah, these have grown super tall, and I have been fertilizing fairly regularly. Now this is all under irrigation, and that is really important because I cannot keep up with watering in my hot, dry climate. We have no rain all the way through November, starting April. So I have to have irrigation. So this is doing really well, and I love my little dahlia that's peeking out over here. I've got several different dahlias. This is Arabian Night. This is Duke of Edinburgh or something like that. And yeah, I've got climbers also. I've got this thread trellis, and I'll show you another better one on the other side. But yeah, I've got cantaloupes, I've got Armenian cucumber, and look here, I actually have an Armenian cucumber happening over here. Tons of blooms, but there is one problem. So even though this grid, this is a 1/2 inch grid, it is big enough for a bee to come through. It's not that easy as just simply flying through. And so all of these plants that I have over here, I've got tomato plants, I've got a lot of cucumber plants, they are not getting pollinated as much. So unfortunately, I am having to come out here and do some hand pollination. Now, tomatoes are typically pollinated by wind, so it's not as bad, but we don't have much wind here either. So I do this to pollinate my my tomatoes. And then for the cucumbers, it's really difficult to hand pollinate, you guys. You can take the male and then sort of try to get it to the female and rub it. It's just a big pain. But I'm getting a lot of male blossoms and the females are just drying and dropping off. So yeah, that is the problem with messing with nature. I have successfully excluded the squirrels, but I've also excluded a whole bunch of things that I didn't want to exclude. So what do I need to do? Well, the only thing that can kind of help is to grow flowers that the bees can absolutely not resist. Like this scabiosa is a huge bee magnet. There aren't any right now, but I have seen several bees fluttering around this. Fluttering, can't get any little hummingbirds, can't get any butterflies in here, but the bees are able to squeeze through, and whichever is able to squeeze through, I do see them hanging around these flowers. So growing more flowers, I think, is one of the options. And speaking of flowers, don't you absolutely love my teddy bear sunflower? Oh my gosh, this is so adorable, you guys. Look at the teddy bear sunflower. I've never been able to grow these before. The squirrels have always broken their stems. So I'm just so thrilled to finally be able to grow sunflowers. And I've actually grown some large sunflowers too. This is Rudbeckia. Bees tend to like yellow flowers, so that's one good thing. And yeah, these tall sunflowers, they're not as tall, they're not that 12-foot tall variety, but yeah, they are a good, I don't know, 6 feet tall, which is much taller than I've ever been able to grow sunflowers before. But speaking of tall plants, there's one more problem. So when I've planted things in this particular plot before, they've never really grown that well. The squirrels have gotten them, all kinds of stuff has happened. But now that they are actually able to grow really well, like that cornfield behind me, they are shading out a whole bunch of stuff. And so the corn, typically I should have planted it somewhere where they would not cast a shadow, but they cast a tremendous amount of shadow over the plants. And so a lot of them just not seeing the light of day, literally. And I think this hardware cloth on the top also kind of sort of shades things out. I've also got an oak tree over there. So I've got all kinds of things. This is just sort of bound by all kinds of structures. I've got my camper there. The house is over there. This space, yeah, it can get some sunshine. That space, it can get a little bit of sunshine. But yeah, it is kind of bound by all kinds of tall buildings. So yeah, I'm just going to have to take what I get. Oh, I see another Armenian cucumber coming. So looks like some stuff is getting fertilized. So yeah, I'm just going to be grateful. So this is the other trellis that I was talking about. This is a metal trellis. It's called an A-frame trellis or something like that from Vego Garden. Solid, you guys. So this is a permanent structure that I'm going to put over here. That string trellis that I just showed you, that's going to be gone in a year or so. But this thing is going to last forever. And then speaking of lasting forever, here's another trellis from Vego Garden that I just installed. Super tall, super sturdy, and I'm growing lots of plants. This tomato plant also, I'm doing that sort of method where I've got multiple little plants that are going to be growing out of the same one, the suckers and the main plant, and they are going to be crawling up the sides of this trellis. And I've got cantaloupe growing over here as well. So yeah, lots of good stuff going on this very, very sturdy trellis. I've got a video where I talk all about how this thing was set up and all that. So check it out when you get a chance. I am an affiliate. I leave discount codes in the description if you want to buy any of these things. See that? That's a kabocha squash. I've never been able to grow kabocha squash or any kind of pumpkin or watermelon before because guess what? Squirrels. And now I can. So this is another one of those A-frame trellises that I just showed you. So you can have multiple configurations. This is actually shaped like an A. The other one that I just showed you, I had laid out flat. And I'm growing again on this cantaloupe, cucumbers. I've got pole beans coming up over there. I've got a huge plant, or at least I hope it'll get huge. It's rampicant squash. This plant grows massive. It's a baby seedling right now. So all kinds of things going to be growing on this sturdy trellis. So another thing that happens around this time of year, particularly if you're watering in the evenings, there's humidity around the soil, fungal diseases start to happen, and plants start to get diseases. I've had some of my tomato plants just die off on me, and I'll show you one actually, and you got to pull those out, unfortunately. Don't nurse them back to health. So this is the problem of growing heirloom tomatoes. Many of them are not disease resistant. This little plant over here, yeah. It's a goner. I tried trimming off a few leaves and things, but it just looks like more and more of them are dying, and it's reached a point where I am just going to get rid of it. I will go all the way down to the bottom and I will cut it and I will toss it, not in my compost pile, I'll put it in the green bin. Now what you don't want to have happen is for its neighbor, in this case this chocolate sprinkles plant, I don't want it to get disease. I hope it hasn't already caught it, but that's why you need to, when you're pruning plants and things, especially at this time of year, make sure that you carry a bottle of rubbing alcohol with you. Squirt your pruners between plants. Even if they're not sick looking, just always squirt your pruners. But one thing I wanted to tell you guys about, if you've been following my journey, I'm using the lower and lean method for trellising tomatoes. Basically what that is you single stem the tomatoes, so you remove all the suckers, and you have this string that you hang all the way to the bottom over there, and you twine the tomato up it, or you can use those little tomato clips, and then when it reaches the top, remember that the tomato is a vining plant. It'll continue to grow and grow and grow. 16 feet, 28 feet, 40 feet, it can keep growing, especially the indeterminate varieties tend to do that. So I will keep releasing string from here and keep wrapping the tomato plant around like this, and then what technically should happen is it's going to start leaning, and I will let it lean and continue to grow. So I'll show you how this goes. This is the first one that has reached the top, which is roughly about 5 feet tall. Now all the rest also hopefully are going to be catching up. I've got several tomato plants. The nice advantage of this method is you can grow several of them very close together. The bad part of it, you've got to prune it into a single plant. You've got to be careful of diseases, that kind of thing. So stay on top of that. Squirt your plants with hydrogen peroxide diluted to about maybe 1:4, something like that. Come out every week and squirt your plants, and do it kind of in the wee hours of the morning is best, so that the plants absorb and then dry out before the heat of the sun hits. Another thing that I'm also doing is I have started my Brussels sprouts seedlings, you guys. I have to start Brussels sprouts in June from seed in the Bay Area, because Brussels sprouts have a very, very long growing season. We do not have enough cool days over here in our California climate, so we have to start it in the summer and then kind of let it grow and hopefully produce in winter. So I was kind of semi-successful last year. I started in, I think it was late July, but this year I started in June, so let's see how I do. This is my blueberry GreenStalk I wanted to show you guys. This one is in transition actually, but the Verbena is growing really nicely. You see all these long stems. I don't think they're a really good candidate for the GreenStalk, just because they grow so, maybe some people like the look of it, I don't know. But yeah, they grow nice long stems, so you can actually cut this, remove some of the old fluffy stuff and stick it in a vase and it'll look really, really pretty. I gotta get rid of this viola pansy plant. I mean, I had pansies so late into the year this year. It's just been unseasonably cool. Oh, and look at my snapdragons. Yeah, everything over here is kind of overgrown and past its prime, and this GreenStalk needs to be transitioned, and I'm not yet sure what I'm going to be planting in it. If you've got some ideas, let me know. I've already got some tulsi. My mother-in-law loves coming and looking at this GreenStalk, so I wanted to plant plants that she would like. I've got some soybean growing here. I've got some peppers that I've got started. I've got some Thai basil. Sorry, this is Cardinal basil pepper plant. She loves coming and harvesting peppers. So this is like my mother-in-law's GreenStalk. So give me some ideas on what I should plant in this one. Quick little update on my strawberry-filled GreenStalk. This GreenStalk I put in place, I think somewhere in like early spring, late winter, early spring. And I did a whole bunch of things differently this year because I wanted sweet strawberries. I've been growing strawberries every year since I started using GreenStalks. That's why I got my GreenStalks in the first place. Been able to grow great strawberries, but not sweet, just bland tasting. So I did several things this year, and secret, it has a lot to do with fertilizer, but I got the sweetest strawberries I have ever had. They were literally like dripping with honey. They were so tasty. So go and check that video because I think whatever I did worked, and I've got several steps that I took. But one more thing I wanted to show you is GreenStalk has a new product. By the way, I am a GreenStalk affiliate, so I put a link, discount codes and everything in the description. But they have a new product that is coming on July 14th, the butterfly pin. It comes actually in 7 colors. And the idea behind it is, we got the yellow one, so cute, is that, you know, when you have the strawberry runners and you want to put them in the strawberry cup. Where's my strawberry cup? I don't have any. Oh, there we go. Something like this. So I've got a little petunia growing in it. But yeah, if you want to put the little node in here, I can't demonstrate it for you because I don't have any strawberry runners. Kind of weird. But yeah, you want to hold the node down because only then it will root. Sometimes it just kind of pops up. So you can get like these cheapos I've got from Amazon. They're not as deep as the one that GreenStalk is selling. So GreenStalk always makes things just better than what you can get, right? So this can be used to push in that node and hold it in place and keep the node under the soil, or at least in the soil, touching the soil, so it can develop roots. And once it develops roots, you can snip it off and you've got a whole new plant. So yeah, yet another cute little thing that's going to be on sale from July 14th to July 16th, 2026, along with these strawberry cups. So make sure you grab one because they're going to be actually a really good price too. Okay, so I am losing daylight, so I'll do as much as I can, but I'm probably going to have to complete it tomorrow. But don't you love my arch? It's starting to fill out, you guys. Let me show you up close how they're growing. Yeah, everyone who sees this arch wants to know, where did you get it from? This is actually just from Amazon, you guys. I will put a link in the description. And what I've done is I've actually shortened the height of it. It was too long. I've shortened the height and I have stuck the legs in the second tier, not the top tier, because the top tier tends to be a little bit unstable. I've stuck it in the second tier. And these GreenStalks are only 4 high. GreenStalk actually sent me the link to this. They were doing some experiments with it, and I bought it immediately last year. And they did it in 3 tiers. I'm doing it in 4 tiers. And of course, the biggest caveat with this is once you install it, you cannot turn your GreenStalks, you guys. So make sure that whichever GreenStalks you put it in have ample sunlight, or you're going to have to figure out how to have 2 people sort of move it and turn it. That's what GreenStalk does. But yeah, this thing is looking so pretty right now. I've got mini love watermelon that is creeping up, and it is actually starting to produce little watermelons. So this is an F1 variety. I'm growing it for the first time this year. So I'll keep you updated on that. And then next to Mr. Sloth there, you can see my scarlet runner beans. They've reached the top and I'm having to get a ladder and twine them all in the right direction. I've also got some lovely black-eyed Susans. Oh my goodness, they're starting to fill out. You guys, this thing is going to look so gorgeous. I've got another mini love watermelon growing on this side. This mini love watermelon is a really, it's a fast-growing plant. It's producing all these shoots growing on the sides and all of that. So I'm a little nervous that it's going to outgrow this trellis really soon, which won't be a terribly bad thing. I've got a little jackpea, little pumpkin. Now that's going to start growing as well and going to try to find its place. But yeah, this arch, I just can't wait to see how it develops over the next few weeks. Definitely subscribe if you can. I will keep you updated on the progress of this. And then there's the other GreenStalks. So let's start with this one, the one that's growing one of the watermelons. I have really not done anything with this one. I'm doing an experiment this year where I am not really restacking any of my GreenStalks, so I'm just sort of backfilling them. I put a little slow release fertilizer, mixed it into the soil a little bit, filled up the pockets with fresh soil, and I have been mulching because of those darn squirrels. But yeah, everything seems to be growing quite well. Now, you do have to come and fertilize more often than I've been fertilizing these guys. You should come at least once every 2 weeks or so. But yeah, that's why these poor little soybeans are looking like this. I am just not fertilizing it sufficiently. So I need to get my act together. But yeah, soybeans actually grow really well in the GreenStalk. I just haven't been very good to them this year. Now this is growing some of my beautiful summer vegetables. I have got eggplants, I have got peppers, I have got, oh my goodness, cherry twist, snapdragons. These are bedding variety snapdragons, so these actually grow really nicely in the GreenStalk, as you can see. So if you like that, if you like them to kind of get slightly tall, I would say, for the GreenStalk, but still they look really pretty. They're not like those 4-foot tall snapdragons that grow way too tall. So watch out if you're buying snapdragons, make sure that they are the bedding variety. And then peppers, I've got cherry bomb peppers, I think is what these are called. And of course, my gorgeous alyssum. It tends to go back and forth. Alyssum, you've got to keep hacking it back during summer particularly because it will look very raggedy if you don't do that. So you've got to just keep coming. And the way you want to prune is you want to go at the bottom because that's where all the old branches are. And I'm very good at deadheading and keeping things well pruned in my GreenStalk. I take my pruners every day and walk around my GreenStalk and I take off excess foliage. I prune back alyssum. I do all these things, deadhead, etc. Check out my bean tower. Now, beans produce a nice big flush and then after that they kind of dribs and drabs. So I've already harvested a lot and I'm getting some dribs and drabs, but really what I need to do now is yank out all these beans and start over with this GreenStalk with a fresh batch, potentially of beans. And this GreenStalk until this morning was covered in tulle because darn squirrels, they dig everything. They just go into the pockets and they just dig out the soil over there. They like that black earth. So I was covering it with tulle, but I removed it this morning because the plants are just getting too big. They cannot be controlled by the tulle. This is the first time I'm growing cucumbers on this plant support, and I am really liking it. So I'm just sort of twisting it around the support. And I'm kind of OCD in the sense that I like it all to go in one direction. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing it kind of anti-clockwise. All of the plants are being pruned in, not pruned, trellised in that direction. And then the ones on the top, I'm using this Texas tomato cage. And I know you guys are going to ask. So yeah, Texas tomato cage is one of those things that you can stack multiple one over the other. I'm just using one level. It's not a GreenStalk product, but yeah, it actually works really well, fits really nicely in the GreenStalk, and I will leave a link to it. It's a little bit pricey, but it fits beautifully in the GreenStalk. So these upper level cucumbers are going to be climbing onto that, hopefully. And here is my tomato tower. Now this is filled with micro tomatoes and oh my goodness, I think I got a ripe tomato over here. Oh my goodness, yeah, this is my very first tomato. These got a very late start, but micro tomatoes grow fast and they produce fast. So really excited to see this filling out. Let me eat this one. Very tasty. You can see this one still has the tulle on it because I've got a lot of little tiny seedlings that are coming out. The squirrels are just, they're just relentless this year. So one thing that I'm doing that seems to be working well, and by the way, I've got a squirrel video, you guys. I will put a link to that as well. Go read the comments on that video. The comments are pure gold. People have commented on the things that they've done to keep the squirrels out. And one of the things that they have said that is working actually really well is putting stones. So grab some stones. You want to put larger stones, otherwise you put smaller stones, it's going to be difficult to get it out of the soil. But cover the bare soil with stones. Squirrels do not, I don't have enough over here, but what I would do is cover this entire pocket with stones like this. And squirrels don't like to dig in stones. Now the problem with that is if you've got little young seedlings, you want the seedlings to sprout first. And then you want to put the stones around the seedlings. That's when the tulle comes in handy because while the seedlings are very, very tiny, you don't want the squirrels to get them. So yeah, tulle plus stones should really help you with your squirrel problem, but they will find the little gaps. So make sure that you put that tulle nice and tight around it because yeah, they are very naughty, these squirrels. They are very naughty and they're very hungry. Another thing that I've been using to keep the squirrels out is these seed houses. They work actually really well to keep the squirrels out. The squirrels will try, so make sure you center it properly, or they will try to squeeze in through the sides, but I just let it stay. Even though I don't have seedlings over here, it's an entire bean plant. Certain plants, you can actually leave the seedling or the seed house on and the plants will grow nicely through it. So that's what I've done with this, and it worked out really well. Okay, time to show you my massive 10-foot by 2.5-foot Vego Garden kitchen garden and how it's doing. This thing is about 3 months old and it is just out of control, gorgeous. I mean, I can't believe how fast the plants grew in this. See, this is how important sunshine is. In my squirrel enclosure that I just showed you, the same zucchini plants are like quarter the size of this one and haven't produced any zucchinis for me yet. This one, on the other hand, producing and producing. I mean, I blink and I've got a baseball size zucchini that I need to harvest. Oh, by the way, someone was telling me that when you want to harvest these large zucchinis, you need to gently twist them. Oh my gosh. Let's see whether this works. It worked! Okay, so I want to tell you something about this, you guys. These large zucchinis, well, some people say they don't like the taste and all of that. They don't taste any different to me than the tiny zucchinis, with one huge advantage. They actually will stay outside. They're almost like winter squash because the skins have become kind of hard. So you're going to have to peel them potentially if you want to use them. But yeah, they actually can just be left outside. I've got several on my kitchen counter and, you know, they are so nice and large that I need a few of them. One of them is enough to make one dish versus several little tiny ones. So yeah, don't hesitate to grow zucchinis a little bit large. Don't worry too much about it. Yeah, and if the squirrels don't get it and you're able to protect it, yeah, grow the larger ones. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments. Yeah, so I've got cucumbers growing on this. I've got, again, bitter melon. I harvested all my bitter melon and I've got so many more coming. This is the year for bitter melon for me for some reason. Fortunately, we love bitter melon. I just like to salt it a little bit, slice it up, salt it a little bit, let it sit for a while, squeeze out some of that bitterness, and then lightly stir fry it. It's delicious. I've also got a lot of cucumbers. Unfortunately, this is a Japanese cucumber variety. Oh no! Yeah, squirrels. So yeah, this is not in any enclosure of any sort, so the squirrels do get to it. Now, one of the advantages of planting things so densely over there is it's a little more difficult for the squirrels to access and even see the cucumbers. I mean, there's several growing. There's like a ton of cucumbers all over this plant. I've actually got to come and harvest. My husband loves fresh cucumbers from the garden. He's always telling me to grow more cucumbers. So between him and the squirrels, yeah, we definitely enjoy a lot of a lot of cucumbers in my family. I've got one more baseball size zucchini down there. But marigolds, you guys, marigolds are growing phenomenally well. Now, unfortunately, I have seen that leaf miner is starting to take out some of the older branches. So I think I'm going to have to come and give this thing a hard prune, take off some of those old foliage that has a lot of leaf miner damage. But overall, it's looking so beautiful. It's going to be really hard for me to prune this back. I've also got eggplant. I actually harvested a beautiful black beauty the other day. I've got more coming, so no worries. But yeah, this is my pride and joy, this bed. I've even got peanuts, I've got ginger, I've got all kinds of stuff growing in this, just jam-packed. And again, just that much soil. And I do have irrigation set up, but it doesn't need much soil as long as your soil is rich, as long as you fertilize regularly, throw some slow release fertilizer every month or so, and you will have a garden that looks like this. Oh, and the bitter melon and beans that are kind of trying to find their way, well, guess what? They're making their way to this neighbor bed over here. Yeah, they're crawling all over it. Everything is looking really, really nice. Okay, you guys, it is getting pretty late. I'm going to try and wrap up this video. I am standing in front of one of my favorite planters, which is the Vego Garden self-watering planter. contains like 20 gallons of water underneath, and things do really well in my Bay Area climate with the bottom watering. I just can't keep up with the top watering. So the bottom watering actually mimics nature. You know how plants drive their roots all the way down to the water table looking for water? Well, in the Bay Area, that water table is pretty low. So these self-watering planters really, really help. And actually, the plants prefer that over having to constantly be sitting in wet soil. They like to actually go and find soil a little bit lower down. So I am absolutely loving my self-watering planters. Vego Garden's self-watering planters are really best in class. So I want to remind you guys, I do live streams every first Saturday of the month on the topic of GreenStalks particularly. And so do check out those live streams whenever you can. They are at 10 a.m. Pacific on the first Saturdays of the month. So I hope to see you at one of the upcoming sessions. I will put a link to all of the videos on GreenStalk that I have done. I've got over 100 videos, so check it out. And oh, by the way, I have also recently been added as a moderator on the Facebook group that is run by GreenStalk. It is just such an honor. It means that GreenStalk trusts my content, trust me in general to be able to represent their product properly. So I am thrilled to be a moderator on the Facebook group. Check it out, 36,000 people on it, and they're all GreenStalk owners, and they share pictures for inspiration. They have questions that they ask. They share their expertise. It's a really great group to be a part of. So I hope to see you there. Until next time, folks, live green and love your greens.